Alright, the Reds, it's Talking Reds. Gareth Roberts, Andy Heaton back in the studio with us here, and we're going to have a chat about the latest news in the Liverpool world. As you will know by now, the transfer window has closed. No additional business from Liverpool. It is what it is. You know what it is. And we're just going to talk that through, really. So, Andy, you know who's gone, who's come in, who's gone out. There was some late speculation around sort of Grewich, Shaqiri, Wilson, but all of those players have stayed. We've got the news, of course, today as well that Shaqiri has tested positive for COVID-19, so get well soon, mate. But he is staying. You imagine he'll be okay. He'll have to isolate, obviously, now for a while. But what have you made of it all, what we've done in the window? Obviously, there was a big shift, wasn't there, from where there was a lot of fume when we'd only signed Tsimikas, and then we added Thiago and Jota, and then things got all right again. Then, we lose 7-2 and everyone wants us to go and buy a goalie. Some random links yesterday with players I thought we were never ever going to buy, and we didn't. What do you make of it? Have you given the window a mark out of 10 for the Reds? What are you giving it? I'm just wondering whether Xherdan Shaqiri got COVID from his hair transplant gaff. To be honest. Maybe you're on. You know what I mean? Social distancing and that. Someone's like weaving your hair and that. You just don't know, do you? You don't know. I think Liverpool's window overall, if you would have said something at the start of the window, you're signing Thiago Alcantara, you take that anyway. Yeah. Forget about Tsimikas or whatever. I think we need to back up in that position anyway. No, I think we've done all right. I think they would have wanted to shift a couple more out the door. Harry Wilson, as you say, Grewich, Shaqiri, the move might have been scuppered because of what's come out today. Yeah. You just don't know. But no, it's strong. I would have liked to. Maybe it's a little bit reactionary, but my big concern with Liverpool is the Alisson injury and how long he is actually out for. Because I don't think Adrian's. I think Adrian's unfortunate. But there comes a point where your teammates lose confidence in you. And you start panicking. Liverpool's defensive record's been built on a lot of trust with the back four, the way they play the high line and one thing and the other. And that takes a lot of faith in what you're doing. And it wouldn't take much to try and disrupt that. And I think we saw that, to be honest, as well with the Villa goal from the free kick, where normally our line's so solid, and they broke that. Now maybe that with Villa exploiting it, but Liverpool don't have the record they do without being able to execute that well, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it failed after the mistake after 2 minutes. I think that kind of undermined the whole performance. So it wouldn't have surprised me to see you keep coming in. Saying that, the EFL window's still open. Yep. They may be looking at that, and I know he's Neil Atkinson's hardly his biggest fan, but you've got Ben Foster kicking around there, could be potentially available. I think, is he still at Watford? I think he is, yeah. Potentially kicking around, or maybe an experienced old head. I still remember Liverpool signing Paul Jones. Yeah, with his massive shorts. And his massive shorts. But no, but it was a bat. I know we only played once or twice in that, but I remember applauding him into the Kop goal, and it was just like a calming influence. So, as unlikely as it is, if the injury to Alisson is 6 weeks, as they're saying, I don't know whether they see how it is at Melwood next week, or what the attitude is. Obviously, the international breaks affect that, but whether Liverpool might look at it and go, we just need a new head in there, just to change the attitude, or maybe just give them a shot of confidence. The other thing is that obviously we sold Brewster and we sold Hoover. We got good money for both of them. Two players there that hadn't even played in the Premier League. And you've got near enough, getting on for like 40 million quid for the pair of them. So you'd have to say that that's decent money for the pair of them. I guess the only other thing that people are talking about around the window for Liverpool, the keeper, you're right, although that's only sort of emerged after the weekend, really feels a little bit knee-jerky, I think. But the other one was centre-half, obviously. We've seen Fabinho step in there and do a good job. But I think there's still some concern, isn't there, that you're looking at like Reece Williams and Billy Cometio and things like that, because Matip is obviously a good player at his best, but injured probably too much. Was you hoping maybe to see a centre half come in? To be honest, I was hoping for the emergence of Keanu Hoover this year, to be honest, because now how highly rated he was. And it's a bit of a surprise to see him go, but they've got good money for him there. Wolves have paid, I think it was 10 million quid or whatever it is. And I'm not one to buy into rumours or anything, but you get the
you hear stories from people who would know that he was agitating, or his agent rather was agitating because he wasn't getting the first team opportunities, which is understandable, by the way. I get that not every player agitating is immediately a dickhead. Some, the players need to develop, and I think that's the same for Ryan Brewster. I think he's at the age now where the lads obviously got talent, ability and potential, and is that potential better served developing at a club where he's going to play week in, week out, or is it sitting on the bench and seeing where you go? And we've got we've got the buyback clause in there, so if he does develop, we can always bring him back if he wants to come back. So I think the moves that make sense. They must have a lot of faith in Billy Cometio. And obviously, I thought when they let Lovren go, they'd maybe sign a replacement for him. But they haven't, and as you say, Matip, when he's on form and he's fit, he sounds. I feel a little bit sorry for Joe Gomez. My personal thing with Joe Gomez, and people can disagree, that's fine, is that he takes a couple of games to get going. I think when Joe Gomez is good, he's great.
Oh yeah,
he's brilliant.
Absolutely.
He's really good. There's been games where he's outshined Virgil van Dijk and made Van Dijk look good because of his recovery pace. But when he tends to have a poor game, it always seems to be when he's just come back in, or he's been out for a little bit, or recovering from an injury. And maybe it's a confidence thing, maybe it's just a rhythm thing. Players can be like that sometimes. So, I mean, you say, and also Fabinho can slot in there. So, if you look at the squad, you've got 5 options there really, if you think about it. And so you sign a third choice centre half, you sign a fourth choice centre half, and then how many of those are there about? What are they going to do?
Yeah, I don't know. And who wants to come and all the rest of it, and then and the only way to make them come maybe is pay them a little bit over the odds, and on you go and on you go. And with Billy as well, obviously we haven't seen loads of him. But physically, he definitely looks like he's not going to have too many problems there. It's just experience. He looks like
he enjoys heading the ball, and I love a centre half who looks like they enjoy heading the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
So so we see where we are. It's not like there's loads of Ragnar Clavins knocking around. There's
I know.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone looks at everything's micro in it with the transfer window, and if you signed every player that you were linked to or what people were demanding, you'd have a squad at 100 tick. So we are where we are. Listen, we're better stocked than a lot of teams. I just think at the moment we're in an unfortunate position, and obviously with COVID as well, that's kind of affected things, and it's one of that. To be honest, I think I'm happy with the squad. I think we've got more depth in the squad than we've had in a long time. And you look at other squads and their issues, even going to Manchester City, they haven't got a recognised forward at the minute. No, Aguero's back in training. So what's the answer? They go and spend £100 million on another forward after they've spent another £500 billion on another fullback.
I know.
Now, Ole, are you happy with it?
Yeah, I'm alright with it. Yeah, I think it's a solid sort of 7 or 8 out of 10. I think, as fans, you can always say we should have or could have done one more. I think that's almost in our nature as fans.
And you're forgetting as well. We need to save all that money for Sancho next summer, don't we?
Well, that's it, isn't it? You know what I mean? Now that Man United have cocked that one up, it's already... It's all there for us to go and take advantage, isn't it? Well, listen, we did, of course, lose 7-2 at Villa Park. No one wanted that one, but we soldiered on and produced all the content anyway. A lot of people are finding it therapeutic, which is good, and the feedback has been great. But we do loads of little videos around every game now, looking at all the different aspects of it, looking at how the media react, looking at the shape. And this is a clip from The Shape.
If we look at the pressures in the first half, and I've just done the first half of this from Liverpool, given the amount of things that were seemingly happening through the middle of the pitch, there is a concern there that Liverpool aren't really getting a grip of the ball up against Aston Villa in the middle of the park. There's very little pressure there. There's a little bit from where Robertson makes it really interesting on the left-hand side, because he played ever so well, especially in the first half. There's a little bit on the right where Grealish tends to get on the ball, and Liverpool look to put him under some pressure, I think it's fair to say. But there isn't much elsewhere. Now, Liverpool's number of pressures in the first half is just 59 against Aston Villa, but it was only 55 against Arsenal at home. It was 78 against Chelsea, and it was 89 in the first half against Leeds. So there is a little bit of a difference there. But then I looked at last season, and against Villa first half it was 60. I had a look at the game away at Brighton, it was 63. I don't want to read too much into that, but what I would say is there's just very little through the middle of the park there from a Liverpool point of view, and you are left sort of wondering, if you go right the way through that strip, what the 3 central midfielders, especially Fabinho and Firmino were doing in the first 45 minutes of the game. If we look at where Aston Villa pressured over the course of the entire match, to me there's something really interesting. The pressure Liverpool's sort of right-hand side of Liverpool's midfield there, and I think that you could decide that's because they're picking a Liverpool area, Gomez, Alexander-Arnold, maybe Keita. I actually think that they put the resources there because if they win it back, they're going to get it to Grealish. And Grealish is a force within the match, and I think Liverpool do need to have a little think about whether or not they approach the Grealish question well enough. If you look at Liverpool's shots, they're pretty boring. What you'd expect, too much from distance, I'd argue, obviously. But if you look at the Aston Villa shots, and we'll move on to it pretty quickly, they all come from that left-hand side area. The average value of them's over 0.2. That's really, really high value, the opportunities that Liverpool were giving away on average. But if you look at the amount that's coming down that side, my point here is, I wonder if Liverpool had a Jack Grealish plan. If they didn't have a Jack Grealish plan, then it may well be this is where they might have missed Henderson to be able to sort of concoct one as the match is wearing on around. But the other question is that if they did have a Jack Grealish plan, they most definitely did not execute it well enough.
Okay, that was the shape. If you like the look of that, download the Anfield Wraps app. You can get some free tokens on there and you can have a go of some of our premium content for free. If you like it, please subscribe. Go to theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe and get involved. The other thing then, I mentioned that at the top, Andy, it has come out today that Shaqiri has been tested positive for COVID-19 when he's arrived for international duty with Switzerland. Obviously, we lost out with Thiago and Sadio Mane testing for it as well. Is there a concern for you that players are jetting off around the world on international duty, and we are in the middle of a pandemic?
I think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous, to be honest.
Yeah, it is mad, isn't it? Let's be honest.
And to what end of these internationals? Are they friendlies?
I don't know, but I just think, you've got a certain bubble around the Premier League, haven't you? And a certain bubble around, each football club. And then when you go out, it's almost, that's not in your control anymore. Well,
it's multipliers, isn't it? So you've got X amount of players times X amount of clubs times X amount of flights times X amount of contacts. It beggars belief that there's an international break at the minute, and not just like one game. It's like the Virgin van Dijk's gone away for three games.
I know. Wild.
Like, absolutely unbelievable. I'd like to. You do wonder if you ask the player and you off the record, or you get a frank opinion on it, what the players think of it all. Because at the end of the day, as well, as much as they're saying, oh well, he's off sick with COVID, that must do their head in. They've got this professional pride there as well. Do you really think Sadio Mane sitting at home when Liverpool getting beat 7-2 going?
I know. We could have done with them there, it was fair to say. I think the other thing with it as well is obviously a lot of the players, it's coming out more and more now that, as much as we miss going to football grounds, they're missing us being in them. A lot of them now are starting to say in interviews, like, they're missing it. I seen a piece yesterday.
Apart from Everton.
Well, it's helping them, isn't it? Because, because they haven't got, the Gladys Street on the back of every player that puts a foot wrong. But, and that might be one of the reasons they're up where they are right now. But I think on that, I've heard little rumours and little whispers that, surprise, surprise, the government aren't that clued up on professional sport and how it's run and what the figures are behind the scenes. All of a sudden now it seems they've clicked into gear and gone, actually, we do need to look at this. We do need to look at ways to get some fans back in ground safely and all the rest of it. Now, I saw a piece yesterday where it said they were looking at the German model. The problem with that is that in Germany, obviously, they've handled the whole situation much better.
We're 6 months behind where Germany are.
And what they're doing in Germany is they're saying any area that has got an infection rate of less than 35 in 100,000, go ahead, you can put 20% of your crowd in. Dortmund had 11,000 in their ground. Liverpool now, I think, is around 480 odd. Per 100,000, so you're 80% higher than the line, if you like, that they've currently got in Germany. So you'd have to say currently absolutely no chance of there being people back in the ground. Also, interestingly, I don't know if you saw this, both of these pieces were Martin Ziegler in the Times. The other piece that he wrote, he was saying that now as well. And again, this makes sense to me, I've got to say. You always wondered if there was reduced capacities, how are they going to decide who gets to go? What they're saying, what it looks like they're going to go with, whenever it might be, is fans who are local to the ground who are season ticket holders. They're not going to allow any away fans, and they're not going to allow any fans that live far afield to come and travel. Again, you know, there's been a lack of common sense with so much around coronavirus, not least these internationals. But that makes sense, doesn't it?
Have they got 5G in Germany?
Not sure. Don't even go there, lad.
No, I mean, the whole thing's ridiculous. I mean, is it any surprise where there's been a spike in corona cases that they're typically in the more deprived areas of the country, but that's a whole different political discussion.
Yeah, that's a different video.
On letting fans back in, I mean, thank God Peter Moore's gone, because I wouldn't like to be in control of his Twitter account when he announces that only local fans can get in.
Yeah. That's what I mean, it's a can of worms.
How do you police it? I mean, with seasons, so, I mean, look, I know it's a serious point, I'm trying to make a bit of fun out of it, but if they opened at 10, 15, 20%, so how do you decide? Is it season ticket holders? Well, what season ticket holders? Because there's more season ticket holders than there would be allowed in.
Yeah.
So then, how do you decide? I mean, I know Spurs were saying, or there was talk of Spurs letting the higher price, you know, selling the higher tickets.
Yeah, grim now.
Yeah, which, you know, I mean, well, is it any surprise they're trying to get people back in the theatres? Let's just say the chattering classes. So how do you decide that? It's a nightmare. Saying that, if they decided that they could let a proportion of fans in, I'd be all for it. And I think if that did come about, we just have to swallow whatever it is that they come out.
Yeah.
Because to me, having people in the ground and enjoying it is more important than the arguments around who gets in and who doesn't.
No, absolutely. I'd rather have some fans than no fans in there, me. And I think, you know, there will be some kind of ballot in the end to decide who it gets to be. And we're just going to have to cop for it. It might be me, it might not be me, it might be my mate to sit next to, it might not be. You know, we're lucky in the first place to be in there, so we'll see what happens with all of that. I mean, it is a nightmare though, and there will be people on the wrong side of it who won't be happy and kind of feel sorry for, you know, some of the people behind the scenes who are going to have to try and sort that out, because it is a bit of a nightmare. But yeah, it feels like that's a long way off, but that's just where we are, and I thought it was worth mentioning because it has been in the press the last couple of days. Well, listen, it is an international break, and then it is the Goodison derby. When we return, the Anfield Wrap is, of course, carrying on all the way through, creating content, video, podcast, and stuff on the website. So get involved with all of it. Like I say, download the app. Also check out the website, theanfieldwrap.com. That has been Talking Reds for today. Thanks to Andy. Thanks to Ash for filming. And up the fucking Reds.